As creative people, we need influences. We need to be influenced from something. Why do we need influences? Because influence is part of the inspiration. I already talked in a couple of videos about what is inspiration. Actually, I talked about the fact that I don't know what is inspiration, and nobody knows what exactly is inspiration. But influence is part of inspiration. Influence is a kind of an input that you get and you use in order to give birth to something new, to develop something new. It is something that could be the ingredients, it could be the seeds of something that grows in you and becomes your creation. And the way I see it, there are four kinds of influences. The first influence is from the external world. External world, I mean anything that is around you. If you walk in the street and you see a flower, that is an external world. If you walk in the street and you see a wall that has a damp kind of stain on it from mold or something, that is external world. If you go down the street and you see a small girl hopping and running and skipping and smiling at you, that is external world. If you go down the street and you see clouds, external world. If you sit at home and you see anything that is around you, the living room, the kitchen, the window, any kind of input that you get from the external world is influence that comes from the external world. You can always learn something from it, you can always use it, you can always try to manipulate it. You can think, hey, look at this window, look at how the light comes in. That reminds me of this and that. I can try to use this effect in this project. You can look at your glass with iced coffee and say, I love the way the ice cubes are floating and they're half in, half out. I will use this in my dress that I am making. You can look again at the flower and find exactly what you need for the chair you're designing. Anything that is around you, anything that is external and exists in the natural world. The second type of influence is external creation, which is basically everything that is created. Now, I'm not going to go into theological arguments about the fact that everything in the world is created by someone or something. We are not going there. We are talking about just creation by men. How do I use influence created by men? By taking some things that were created and putting it in a different kind of creation. If I look at the design of the camera that I'm using, and I think to myself, I love the way that the curve goes on the top above the lens, and I think to myself, that could be a nice chair. I think to myself, that could be a nice laptop if I use it to hold the... If I look at, again, the same glass that I looked before, but now I look at the curve of the glass, and I say to myself, that could be the curve that I'm using on the new pants I'm making. If I look at the table and think to myself, I like the way that they use this material, I'm going to use it for that. Anything that somebody created, somebody put thought in it, exists, I see it, I get input from seeing it or from holding it, from feeling it, the texture. This influence can give me data to use for other projects. The fact that I have a pen that has a certain kind of texture on it that makes it easier to hold when I'm writing can be expressed, I will take it one step further, can be expressed in the music that I'm making. How do you make texture into music. Think about it. You can. Maybe you use rhythm, maybe you use different notes, maybe you need a tonal kind of progression. How do you manifest texture of a plastic material in a soundtrack? Can you do it? I think you can. So the second part of influence, the first part was the external world, everything that exists. The second is external creation. Somebody did something, I learn from what they do, and I take it to a different direction. I'm not trying to copy what they are doing. I'm influenced by them. There are a lot of fashion design that is influenced by architecture. There's a lot of jewelry design that is influenced by music. There's a lot of interior design that is influenced by literature. Any kind of creation leaves a footprint, leaves a stamp, leaves something. You can use that to create something else. So the first part of influence, external world. The second is external creation. The third one is your internal creation, which means things that come from inside you. Now you're saying, how is things that come inside me influence? Because you cross-reference. Because you, as a creative person, is supposed to have different layers, different levels of how you see the world, how you use the world, how you interpret the world. And these are supposed to influence your own creativity. I am a writer and I'm a musician. I'm a designer and I'm an artist. I cook and I make furniture. All of these things are connected. I influence myself by creating different things. This is what I call my internal creation. This is my internal world that I use as tools to create something new. The final fourth part of influence is, and again, if you notice, these videos are in the spiritual creativity part. Because the fourth part of influence that I have is, again, divine intervention. There is no other way to say it. Maybe you don't believe this, maybe you don't believe that. You can believe any God you want, you can believe any energy you want, you can believe the universe, you can believe any new age nonsense. I don't care. The fact is that there is a world outside of our simple perception. There is a world that is higher, that is bigger, that is more complex, that we don't see and don't understand. And we can be influenced by this world. We can be influenced by things that we don't know exist. We know that they might exist. We think that we feel them. We don't understand them. How can we be influenced by these things? I don't know how it works. Again, sometimes you just have inspiration. Sometimes something just comes to you. It comes to you naturally. It comes to you in a dream. It comes to you in a moment. It comes to you when you're in the toilet. It comes to you in the shower. It comes to you when you're walking down the street and suddenly, I've solved my next project. I know exactly what to do with this rhythm section in this part. I know how to end this story in my new book. How do you know? How do you get this? This is not an influence again that you get from the world you see around you. Oh, I see this, I will do that. This is not influence from creation of other people. This guy finished this story like this, I can do the same. No. And this is not something that comes from inside you, because you don't have it inside you. You looked. And as creative people, we look a lot inside us to see what is there. We dig with shovels. What do I have to offer? What do I have to say? This is the worst thing, sitting in front of an empty page and digging, trying to get there. No. I'm talking about real divine inspiration. How do you get it? I have no idea. There are many people who will tell you that you can meditate, you can fast for 3 days before you record a piece, you can do that, you can do this, you can sleep in the construction site to feel how it looks in the morning, and I don't know. This is for you to find out. But you have to understand that it exists. So the four parts of influence that we have, four parts of data that we get from the world and we can use for our creation is everything that is around you in the external world, everything that was created in the external world, everything that is inside you that you create, and magic. Again, no other way to say it. Magic. Work on finding that fourth one, the magic, and then all your problems will be solved. Meanwhile, use all the other three. Use all four together, and you will always have creation that is interesting and hopefully also successful.